our guests this week are Danny and Ben from Super Awesome Games. They have done the amazing work on the Ruin of Thandar campaign series, so Ruin of Thandar and Lost Village. If you play Hero Realms, you haven't checked out the campaign yet, you definitely need to. Super cool cooperative play. So let's bring them in.
And this is their Super Awesome logo.
Super Awesome logo. I'm not sure whether that's Danny or Ben.
I don't know. Let's take another look here. Okay, you guys let us know.
Danny's eyes. I don't know.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome
How are you
to
guys?
our glorious stream here.
It is glorious. You guys have a lot of things going on.
yes.
Always.
We do.
Always we do.
Our stream would be like, there's not much that we can say today. Bye-bye.
I made eggs for breakfast.
Yeah.
So I met Danny a million years ago when he was in college, and I had a game store near said college. And we played Magic on a team together, the Your Move Games team.
Legendary.
And we ended up doing some contracting work for the upper deck on the Versus system, right? Back in the old Versus system back in the day.
2003.
Basically, they were looking for some pro players to check out their game system and see how it was. And it needed a little bit of work, and they were so impressed with Danny, he ended up doing a lot of work for them. And then more recently, actually, you guys, Danny and Ben, actually hired me to do some contracting work for them back about the time when Star Realms was being worked on. And then when we started working on the campaign stuff, I knew Danny and Ben's work on deck building stuff from the some legendary stuff.
Yeah,
Super
show us
cool.
your game. That's one of the games they worked on.
So yeah, I reached out to you guys to see if you'd be interested in working on our campaign stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit about the Hero Realms campaign and the whole process of coming in and working on that?
No.
No.
Also, if anyone in the watching has questions for Danny and Ben about the work they've done on our games or other games, you can ask them in the chat, and we'll grab those questions as we go too.
So yeah, I mean, you
Go
want
for
to?
it.
Yeah,
No, you go for
Rob called us up and was like, "Hey, we want to do these hand
Wait,
gestures."
can we go back first?
Yeah. Sorry.
When Danny was in college, if he was in college, you wouldn't have met him, Rob. He was at your store all the time.
when Danny was blowing off college.
It was great. So what we did was, I was actually living with Ben or nearby at this point, and we went to college together. And we would go to your store, and we were like, he was playing the Star Trek trading card game, and I was playing Star Wars. This is like 99, 2000, right? Yeah. And we're like, let's try Magic, because Magic's been around and a long time, because it was like 7 years at that point, right? Yeah. And we're like, let's play Magic, but let's not go crazy spending money. We're gonna go to Rob's store. We called it Rob's. There was Rob's because there was also Ed's. There was the card and comic stores, right?
You remember Ed? I'm sure.
Yeah. So we're gonna go to Rob's, and he had these commons boxes, right?
Yes.
They were like 10-cent commons or whatever. And we were like, we set a budget. We're like, it was me, Ben, and our other roommate Jay, and he's not behind us. He's just back in the past. And then we're like, our budget is $10 each, because we knew it could get out of hand if we started like spending money in an arms race and whatever. Yeah. So we're just like $10 each. We're just gonna build one deck each. We're just gonna dabble in Magic. And I think that day Jay spent like $30, and it all just started. It started out of control immediately.
The arms race began.
It was amazing.
But it led to good things, so that's all right.
Yeah, I worked at that store for a couple of years, so that's it was all good. Campaign. So we I mean, it was a few years ago, but I remember when we got the Hero Realms is obviously cool. We like Star Realms, we like Hero Realms. Very clean, robust engines where you can layer on top of them a lot of cool stuff. Ben's giving me my don't talk too much.
No, I'm not yet. Just not yet. No, I will. You won't see it. It'll be like this.
Yeah, right. So what I remember most was we came back with our first iteration was like all over the place. It was like we like most times when we try something new, it's like too complicated at first, and then we need to ratchet it back. But anyway, yeah. So we made the Rune of Thandar, and then we had this plan for essentially we wanted to do like a start with a classic. You're meeting a bar, right? You're like the classic adventurers. You're going to meet in a bar, but then we're just like, let's just start it off like right away. The bar gets attacked. So there's no like you meet at a bar and then you're like going to go on some quest somewhere. We're just like, okay, the story will be like you're in the bar, then the bar gets attacked, and then we're just off to the races. There's like a character who gets like kidnapped, and then you got to rescue them. And then
I wanted to just have it be in the bar the whole time.
Bar.
It's just about ordering.
The first encounter was going to be ordering drinks. The second was going to be like, do you send
appetizers?
Yeah, like it's undercooked. Do you send it back?
Yeah.
Like it's like real awkward conversations, and that brings in the cooperative elements where you're kind of debating.
That's right. You
like,
have share food.
Like, can you send it back? I'm kind of an introvert. Like, so no. So yeah. So we did the first adventure, and I see some questions of what are the first steps, but I know that we wanted to do the first encounter. We wanted to just sort of introduce the concept, right? Because it's like, okay, cool, you're working together. There are areas, it's 1 to 5 players. You each have sort of your own area, which is like not something that comes up in the PvP sort of standard Hero Realms game. And then we had this master card that's like the bad guy, and then they sort of flip a card every turn to do effects and whatever. And so the very first encounter, we wanted to be very like straightforward, just like the bad guys making combat or healing or making you discard a card, like just sort of really like baby steps, introduce you to like there's an AI opponent who's going to do mean stuff to you and you're going to work together, right? Mm-hmm. And then when we got to like the second encounter, we're like, okay, now we want to start sort of showing off what the engine can do, right? We wanted to go more like, okay, first of all, there's 2 different bad guys. You sort of choose
a choice, yeah.
And if you're stumped on one of them, you can go to the other one. But also we wanted to sort of play up the differences. Like they're not just like two skins of the same bad guy. Like this one's like real heavy discard. This one's real more gonna destroy your stuff. Whatever.
The imp is really annoying.
Super annoying. But we also, this is sort of like a side story, but we always try to put in when something we always try to make it challenging. Obviously, there's different difficulty levels for the campaign you can try on, but we always want to make it challenging so that when you beat it, you feel like you accomplished something. Like there's like if it's too easy, you just kind of run over and you're like, well, that wasn't that fun. Like it's actually like obviously if it's too punishing, that can become unfun a different way. But we want to make it challenging. But the most important piece of that is we want to make sure that when you lose, you at least have some sense of like why you lost, so you can adjust your strategy for next time. Because Hero Realms, especially in the campaign, it's pretty high variance. Like the order the cards come in the market, the order the cards come from the bad guy. Like you can just get real unlucky, or you could get lucky, right? So there's like little lessons in there. I think we posted some of these as like tips on the website. Like, but the other main thing we really tried to do with that second encounter was sort of flip it on its head. The other sort of big lesson is they're not going to kill you. Basically, the 2 bad guys in that second encounter don't really go after you. In fact, you have to go fast enough to beat them before they escape. There's like an escape mechanic where if you take too long, they just run away. So we wanted to just sort of turn it on its head and more importantly, show
a very different way of playing, obviously. Right.
Yeah. We wanted to show the players that it's not just going to be like burn down the opponent before they burn you down. Like there's different concepts. And then obviously when we got to the third encounter, the final encounter of the first chapter of the first adventure, it's like a double boss fight. There's like the priestess, and then like when you defeat the priestess, like then like or if you don't defeat the priestess in time, either way, like they summon a demon, and then there's 4 different demons, so there's replay value there, because we that's also something we're very cognizant of. We want you to be able to play the game over and over again, because one of the coolest things in Hero Realms is the 5 classes. You got all these 5 classes. You got different treasures and skills you could buy depending on how what you want to do and what you get. So we want you to just be able to run it again. Now play as the cleric. Now play as the barbarian, or like you're playing with your friends, you can do different combinations. So we tried to put a lot of replay value in that third encounter. At this point, I'm just telling stories. So if you can stop me, I don't know.
No, that's awesome. And one of the things I love about game design in general, and you guys are great at it, is trying to capture a feeling or a flavor. Like sometimes you get a mechanic and it just feels right. I think a cool example of that is like the legendary aliens with the people getting infected. Ben, can you talk a little bit about like that concept? And yeah,
that's actually, it's funny. It's where we start with everything. So there's like generally two broad ways to design a game. You can sort of do mechanics up and then put a theme afterwards, or you can sort of start with the theme and move down, top down. I mean, the best ideas, I think, probably happen simultaneously, but that's really rare in my opinion, that it happens that way. So yeah, with Alien, we knew we had to have, I mean, the most iconic thing about Alien, I just watched this with my kids last night, is the chest burster. We knew that's the most iconic moment of the movie. It's like I had to pause it for my kids. I was like, "Do you guys?" They're 13 and 15. I was like, "Do you guys sure you want to watch this?" Because like once you watch it, you can't unsee it. You know. So we knew we had to have that matter, and like there's a big movement in not having player elimination in games, in modern board games. So, and obviously that's the ideal thing it would do. It would be kill a player. So we said, too bad. We're going to do it anyway. But we did have a lot of outs. So what we did was we have the face hugger. There's eggs that appear. There's other ways for face huggers to appear. But if you don't kill the eggs in time, you get a face hugger in front of you. But then you have some time to kill the face hugger to try to get it off of you. And then if you don't do that, you get a chest burster. And then there's a timer sort of in your deck, goes in your deck. So that moment, it makes for an amazing moment of like, do I get one more turn or not? As you're drawing your cards, usually in deck builders, you want to draw your hand because you're so excited about what your next turn will be. Not when you have a chest burster. You're oh god.
And there's a super small chance. There's some cards that can get rid of it, right?
That's right.
There's a couple cards in the pool that you can get lucky, like reveal the top.
You gotta give them hope.
You give them
yeah. And when it happens, it is like the most high fives ever. Like when you actually get lucky and clear the chest burster, like because it's the top part of your deck.
And
like,
sometimes what happens at the end of the game, the only bummer is sometimes it happens early on and someone dies, and you can keep playing, but you don't want to keep playing without that person. This is why we added the alien player. So we have an alien. You can play as an alien. And they have a deck of cards that's just ridiculously powerful, and they play 6 cards a turn. The idea is once one of your friends has died to a chest burster, that's going to turn into a xenomorph that's going to murder everybody. That was the goal. So we see sometimes people go, it's really hard when there's an alien player. I'm like, well, yeah. You're not winning the game. It's just how long can you survive before you die.
And once in a while, I don't know that we've ever experienced this, but like once in a while, if it happens toward the end of the game, you've got a shot. You still have a shot at beating the game because you're playing against the game, right? It's a co-op, except one player is now trying to kill you with their insane cards or whatever because they're a xenomorph. But you have a shot, right? It's the same like amazing high fives if you actually manage to pull something like that off.
Yep. And at the end of the game, if someone dies, in the last few turns, it's okay because that person's still invested, even though they have a big hole in their chest.
Speaking of stuff that you guys have worked on, can you just briefly go through the list of stuff you've worked on? So if people have questions about any of the games.
Oh no, we didn't make.
We work on our Uno strategy. That's strategy guides for Uno.
Yeah, so it's Scrabble, poker, Uno,
Monopoly.
We've done it all.
Yeah. Star Realms.
You should go through the real list.
Okay, the real list. The real list is so Legendary is actually was originally a Marvel game put out by Upper Deck and made by Devin Lowe, another person who used to go to your game store, Rob, another New England game designer.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I used to play with Devin all the time. He was like me. He tried like L5R and Burning Sands and Doom, all the AEG games, that whole thing. So but then we always would come back to Magic, So Legendary was a Marvel game for a few years, and then Upper Deck contacted us about making an Aliens version. And actually, I want to give Ben like some credit. Basically,
wow, this is unusual.
This is the first time this ever happened. Yeah. So they talked to us about it, and the other cool thing about Alien, so when you play Legendary, there's like bad guy cards show up and they sort of move across the board and push each other, and then you're shooting, trying to defeat them. It's like a shooting gallery kind of thing, and they can escape. With Aliens, that's gross.
That's the face hugger. It's pretty gross.
Yeah,
keep going.
So in our first sort of discussion meeting with them, the idea Ben had right away was, what if instead of the bad guy cards coming out, they came face down, and you have to sort of pay to scan them to flip them over, kind of like that scene in the second Aliens movie where they've got the radar looking thing, and it's like beep beep, and there's aliens,
scanner,
and it's like and sort of evoked a Space Hulk a little bit. I had played a lot of Space Hulk where there's like the blips.
That's an amazing game.
Yeah. So that was the idea. The cards come face down, so they're coming toward you, and like when they get to sort of the end, then they flip over, they start attacking you if it's a bad guy. So it adds this element of like suspense because like you got to pay. You can scan different ones. There's different rooms where as they're sort of coming in this like marching toward you. And sometimes you scan something and it's a horrible monster, but then you kill it. Sometimes you scan it and it's like the cat from Aliens. Jonesy, the cat. It's like so you get this like, oh, okay, good.
Or Newt, the little girl.
Yeah,
the second one. Yeah.
So that was all Ben's idea to have the cards come face down, and then that became sort of a hallmark mechanic for most of the Legendary Encounters line. So anyway, to give you the full line, so there was Aliens was first. We've also done an expansion to Aliens
2,
and then
Alien, Danny?
Alien, yeah, and then a second Alien expansion for the Covenant movie. And then we did Predator.
Oh, can we talk about the first expansion? So the first expansion, I know we're talking a lot. Sorry. The first expansion was very cool. Danny came up with 2 original stories, and we got them. Fox approved them and let us do like actual new stories in the Alien that is compatible with the actual movie. So it's the 2
canon content, basically. That's cool.
Yeah, it's insanely cool. So one is the aliens start flying, which is a problem.
It's like an amusement park.
Yeah, and one is the
there's like clones.
Clones, and they have different powers.
Yeah, they're like growing people with different attributes, and then sort of giving them to the face huggers, so that the xenomorphs now have special attributes.
It was one of the coolest things, I think, being able to play in that universe. Not just make the cards, that's very cool, of course, but like make our own stories that got really approved and are real and can be mixed and matched. But Ripley can go in those stories, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's all.
That was cool. I forgot. Thanks. Then we did the Covenant expansion, which was based on the Covenant movie. And then, but somewhere in the middle, those sort of came staggered over years. Right after we did Aliens, we did Predator. And Predator added like an honor mechanic. You can play as you can play the first 2 movies as either the Arnold, and Danny Glover teams, or you can play as the Predators hunting the humans.
That's more fun.
Yeah, that's more fun. And then we also added like a way to bridge the 2 games, so you can play as Predators sort of hunting the xenomorphs. You sort of just merge the content from the 2 games. Then we did Firefly, which added like a ship mechanic and stuff. And then we added just recently X-Files. So X-Files added a lot of new stuff. Play like
X-Files is out there.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And then recently we did a couple years ago we did James Bond, which is not technically Legendary Encounters. It uses their normal Legendary engine with some tweaks to it. And then that James Bond has multiple expansion. It has one expansion out and then another one coming soon.
Yeah.
And then so that's the Legendary stuff we did. Do you want to talk about Versus?
Oh yeah. So we have another game, Versus. This
is not the one you and I worked on.
No, this is the second one.
This is the reboot.
This is the first set. So that I think we're at, I don't remember, 38 different products or something for that. So it's a combat card game, mostly a one-on-one card game. And it has Marvel, it has Buffy, it has X-Files, it has, what am I forgetting? Alien and Predator. Yeah. So similar, obviously. So it also is from Upper Deck. And that's still going strong. We just came out with the Civil War Battles, which is based on the Civil War comic arc, and that's an awesome place. We put a lot of work into making that a place for people to start because the game's been around for 5.5 years or 6 years or something. So we wanted it's important to have those starting points, as you guys know, for people who sort of get into. You don't want to just keep all your players; you want to get new players. So Civil War Battles is out now, and it's Iron Man versus Cap sort of stuff. And that's the newest thing that we're pretty excited about. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's the main stuff we've worked on. We've done a few other one-off games, a crow board game, Poker Assault, which is a poker combat game.
Oh,
we've also I
thought it was a blackjack.
No, Blackjack
it's
Attack,
Poker
Assault, yeah. And then we've also done more Wise Wizard. We've done some other stuff for Wise Wizard. We've done the Star Realms campaign chapters, the digital chapters, which those are fun. You get to put more solo play stories in there. So
obviously you guys have had a rich history of working with deck builders, games in general, deck builders, and getting great story and mechanics in to deck builders. So we were super excited to have you guys doing campaign stuff, especially with Hero Realms. So with Hero Realms, I had this vision of making a RPG style deck builder, taking taking the Star Realms engine, which people love, and it's simple and easy to learn and fast and fun, and taking that and layering it on top of that. Characters, but not just characters, but the ability to adventure with the characters and build them up over time, and that improvement story arc that you give sort of the fantasy RPG style things, and sort of meshing those together. But critical to that is campaigns with stories and etc. So we're super excited to have you guys coming on and doing the story arc for the story arc, the game mechanics, etc. for the Ruin of Thandar stuff, and that's been super well received. You guys did a great job with that, and
Thanks.
You did a third.
The first time you told us that.
That's you could have mentioned it earlier. There's a third chapter coming out, which is you guys are in sort of the final stages of now on the development process. Do you want to sort of briefly touch on that without too many spoilers?
Sure. Sure. So we talked a little 20 minutes ago, I was talking about the first adventure, that there was obviously a second adventure called The Lost Village, which is 3 more fights where basically you investigate a town. I won't dive too much into this one, but you investigate a town, bad stuff happens, there's like this evil elf person, and then you sort of go back to Thandar, which is like the home base, city state of where the heroes reside. And the governor there is like, what's going on? He's kind of all like, there's your evil elf right there. And after you defeat him, he's like, what's going on? We gotta figure this out. But there's like spies everywhere, because we're sort of building toward like some stuff, behind the scenes in Thandar, which we'll get to by for the 5th adventure. But basically he sends you to the Elf Kingdom, but the Elf Kingdom is like in the wildlands, sort of far away. It was great. We had to like figure out a map for this. And then, but the key piece here is you got to go on the water. Like in the early lore of Thandar, it sort of talks about how it's on this confluence of like 4 rivers. So we're like, okay, cool. We're gonna get the players on a river. We're gonna take them down this huge river, and then we're gonna put them in the sort of on the sea a little bit. And basically, we're gonna have a water adventure, is what it boiled down to. So the name of the adventure is Watery Graves. Watery Graves, right? Which is, and it's not just like a mean sounding thing. There's a little bit more.
I do voiceover stuff too, obviously.
Digital, the graphics and
different.
And then, so basically it was an excuse to get how do water monsters and water kind of stuff. And like Rob said, we won't spoil anything, but we were given some permission to spoil a little bit. So like we're basically the main thing we're going to start off with is pirates. You're gonna be going down the river, and you're gonna be pirates, and there's water pirates. Check, right? Water. So and just other cool stuff is we went. The second adventure has a decent amount of replay value. The first fight, there's 2 options. The second fight, everybody has one of 5 different, masters in front of them and combinations. But we really wanted to. We kind of went overboard. No pun intended. No pun intended.
Ouch.
With replay value for the third adventure, basically the group gets to choose a ship at the beginning of the game. There's 4 ships to choose from. Each one has different properties, and you take that ship with you through all 3 of the encounters of the adventure. And then there's a bunch of pirates. There's 4 different pirate bad guys. There's 4 different pirate ships that can make. So there's a lot of different combinations of fights you can have, and each one sort of like lends itself to watery graves. Right? And that's just the first encounter. Then there's went a little nuts with replay value for the second and third encounter.
What about graves?
Also graves. So water, boats and pirates and water and death.
And you'll be in your grave.
Yeah. So bad news for us getting stuff out, but good news once it's printed and existing. Danny and Ben and I have this sort of weird problem where they're like, oh my God, we got this cool idea, but we'll have to make extra stuff. It's going to cost a little extra. We'll need some extra art. Is that okay? I'll be like, wow, that idea sounds cool. Yes, do it. So basically, they're always like, hey, can we do this? And I'm always like, yes. So basically,
yes.
It kind of, it stretches out a little bit. So, but it makes for incredibly awesome final projects. Like, so for example, the Ruin of Thandar, that first campaign, when conceptually, when we did the Kickstarter, we're like, okay, we're gonna make this thing, and we had done mechanics and knew how it would work, but it was like literally half the size of the final product, and like Danny and Ben kept having great ideas, like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. And I kept going, yes, yes. Like, twice as large, way more art, just hugely, bigger and better. So
it's true. It sounds like Rob doesn't toot his own horn. So like, it's totally true. Like every time we're like, hey, we want to do this, it'll cost 6 more pieces of art. It's never like, well, let's try to sort of cut corners and like, maybe just it's good enough. It's always like, sure, let's make an awesome thing. So, and you guys, everyone on this stream knows that from this company. Like they're not involved with the cutting corners. They're only involved with cutting you with a monster.
Cutting monster.
I didn't know where to go there.
That was not a pre-scripted comment.
Well, we had a question about, are the campaigns only digital? So Rob, can we just pause for you to, so James is one person, maybe there's others who wasn't familiar with the campaigns. Can you maybe just sort of summarize the physical products and the digital product?
Basically Hero Realms, physical. You need the Hero Realms base set, small little box set, plays like Star Realms, but it's got some different art, different mechanics, etc. But a very simple game. Then you can add to, there's the campaign. You can take the Hero Realms game and you can add character packs. These allow you to play as a fighter, a thief, a cleric, a wizard, and that gives you sort of a asymmetric starting position. And then you can add to that the Ruin of Thandar campaign, and that gives you the cooperative play. But it also gives you the ability to level up your characters, find treasures. We've got skill trees in there, and the ability to improve your characters over time. So with all these products together, you can go on cooperative adventures and you can level up your characters over time. And this sort of completes my initial vision of having this sort of RPG style deck builder. Currently, we have 2 campaign sets out. They're sequential, so Ruin of Thandar and then The Lost Village. Each of those has 3 encounters. There's a high level of replayability in that, as Danny and Ben were mentioning, we change. You can make different decisions or different things happen, and you've got whole different things to play against. That's going to continue with 3 more. So there's going to be a 5-part Ruin of Thandar series. The 3rd one is in process now. We've got like 90% of the art done on it, and so it's so basically that's been in progress for a long time, but we're moving toward
it's gonna be awesome.
But it's gonna be awesome.
Water, if you know from the making of the film, the classic masterpiece Waterworld, water makes everything more take longer. So,
there's actual water in the box. We haven't talked to you about that yet. Right?
Oh yeah, we want to do a plastic box with water
in it. You open up the box, all the cards are inside. That's the physical campaign. We are also working with Super Awesome Games on the digital campaigns for Hero Realms. So here we're doing all new stories, and basically there are mechanics that things you do with physical products, paper products, where we want the game to run itself and do these things, and we have these various mechanics in place which make it fast and fun and play well. With the digital tool set, you've got a whole bunch of different options. A lot of things are way easier in digital, but some things are harder, like interacting, table talk with other players, etc. as an example. So basically, we wanted to focus on the digital side with mechanics that are great for digital. And so we were like, all right, we're going to tell all new stories here on the digital side. Some of the stuff from the Ruin of Thandar you might see as cooperative battles, like one-off battles. Some of the stuff that does translate well, or we'll modify things using the stuff. But as far as the campaigns in digital, it's going to be all new stuff. I don't know if you guys want to speak briefly about the digital Hero Realms campaign stuff.
I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about content-wise.
Okay, thank you. That was great on that.
Well, to your point,
there's the structure, and I think the process of how you think about it, the structure of how you're structuring them, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to talk about the stories at all at this point, Rob.
Right. Rob, give me like a cutoff if I'm saying
there's stuff,
and then it happens, and then you have to defeat it or help it. And so the like Rob mentioned a minute ago, there's big advantages and disadvantages to when you switch to digital. So that's why we're not doing like a straight port. For example, in the digital version of the campaign, the AI opponent will generally have a hand, like a deck and a hand, like a full deck, and they'll just sort of play out their whole hand like as though you're playing against the AI in a normal match of Hero Realms or Star Realms. That's not something we could easily do. Like, it would be very fidgety to do that with the physical version. So instead, we just sort of have the bad guy generally flip one card, and it does a lot of stuff. It activates his ability, and it has its own stuff. But in digital, the bad guy's cards will be. I shouldn't say bad guy, the AI, because I don't want to get into morals. But
right, misunderstood.
Yeah,
misunderstood.
Yeah. But they'll have simpler cards, but they'll play like a full hand of 5, each turn, that kind of stuff. In terms of the like how big, I see people asking like, how big will it be? I mean, I'm just going to sort of echo what you said, Rob, which is basically like to me privately. So which is like, make a bunch of them basically. Like now we yeah. So now some of these
bunch of them is hard to
keep going. Basically, they're just but I know that I can speak to like that the first one, when it comes out, it'll take you from it's many encounters. It'll take you from sort of level 1 to the current level cap, all by playing through that one digital campaign. And then there will be other digital campaigns that maybe you play a different character, that kind of stuff. But so I don't know. The one thing I will say is we do get to goof around in the digital space. There's things you can also do with digital cards. Whether it's generating new cards or randomizing stuff or just like having a card transform into a different version of itself. There's that level of cool stuff we get to play with because it's digital. So.
Yeah. So on the digital campaign, we got a very cool campaign that is in progress that's being worked on now. But as Danny was mentioning, it's not just going to be one campaign. We're going to have various adventures and stories, some of them continuing with the same character and like picking up, okay, this campaign took you up to 10th level, and then there'll be another campaign where you can take that 10th level character from finishing the first campaign and continue their story with them and go on with more adventures, and other ones where it's all new adventures. So much like, if you're playing D&D and you can start new adventures, go through various modules, or you can continue through with the same character. We're going to have the same type of thing going on in the Hero Realms. And we're also working, it's not 100% sure we can do it on the technical side, but we will definitely have solo campaigns, but we want to have multiplayer cooperative campaigns in Hero Realms Digital as well. So that's one of the things we're going to be working towards. Obviously, there are a lot of technical challenges to making that happen. So that's one of our goals, although, we can't say for sure whether that's going to come to pass or not, but that's something we're really interested in doing.
Wow, you must have.
I psychically answered this question.
And if anyone hadn't heard that's watching, hadn't heard about Hero Realms Digital, it's a relatively new announcement that we made, and we ran a very short Kickstarter campaign for people that wanted to get in and get beta access early. We do have a late backer available on our e-commerce store. So if you didn't hear about it and you're interested in learning more about it, you can check that out. It is an awesome digital game. And on our past streams, we've talked about it a lot too. I would also love to hear from Danny and Ben a bit about the Star Realms digital campaigns, if you want to chat about those a little bit.
The Star Realms app has this long campaign. It's sort of multiple campaigns. They're all each chapter is kind of self-contained. There's not leveling up the same way there is in Hero Realms yet, although someday. But yeah, so we took over doing the Star Realms campaigns, I think around chapter 17, and we're up to 22 or 23 right now. So, we sort of treat it the same way as we've described the other things. We try to like inject some story. Like we recently, Legendary Commanders were a recent addition to the app, and before that to the physical game. And there are these 6 different characters or 7 different characters with different attributes. So it was cool because we got to sort of introduce their personalities, because they'd been in the game, but there wasn't any real lore about them yet. So we got to sort of introduce them as like, okay, player, you get to be this legendary commander for the next 3 missions. And now you play against their opposite number. If you're the red-green person first, you'll be the blue-yellow person second. And so we got to give them little personalities, which has been fun. And then just sort of like a sneak peek on what we're working on now. We're working on like the next batch of chapters, which is for the High Alert expansion. I don't know, so bleep me if that's a high alert. But one
they
of,
don't have.
Yeah,
they're not.
No, we're not like on the radio.
Okay.
A lot of people think design space shrinks as you make cards, but I think we actually think it expands, because as you come up with new concepts, then that becomes another concept you can sort of riff on. So
Don't
like,
speak for me.
to the okay, I think it expands. Ben thinks it contracts. So
I think it goes sideways. It's
right,
lateral.
it just stays the same. But anyway, the cool part is, so as we're making these new campaign chapters for Star Realms, is like 23, 24, and so on, we have the legendary commanders now as a tool, as like an opponent. Like we can be like, certain missions you're playing against this legendary commander for this reason, and we've sort of established their, what this legendary commander's motivation is, and this is why they show up in the story, to kind of mess with the player. And then later, a few adventures later, there's a different legendary commander who shows up. So anyway, so yeah, that's where we're at with Star Realms. The most recent chapter let the player, we got to do a new thing, which is you get to pick which of the legendary commanders you want to play as, and you can play each mission as all 6 of the legendary commanders. So you get, again, we just try to put more replay value in here, to give your money's worth when you pick up one of these packs. So
awesome. If anyone has feedback on the campaigns, let us know here. You can email support@wisewizardgames.com. We and Ben and Danny love to get feedback, so we love to hear any feedback that you have. So wait, I want to ask a question of Ben, since Danny's talking a lot. So Ben actually did last summer. We had the Hero Realms RPG story game that was going over on the Facebook group, which was really, really cool.
That also went too long. If you're noticing a trend.
Took a long time.
Well, can you comment on just like your thoughts around storytelling and world building and lore? You talked about adding to, worlds in Legendary, and here with Hero Realms, you also both are adding to our stories and creating stories. Like, how do you think about that? Do you have a process? Does it just come to you and you go with it?
Well, for that one, so I wanted to use a few real cards from the first set of Hero Realms. So it'd be something people recognize. So they made a character, which is always fun. They got to make their own character. They made a half-demon wizard named Tanit. And Rayla, the Endweaver, showed up at his house. And so it sounds bad, but they turned out to be a wonderful odd couple buddy team. But so that's where I started. So I was just looked through all the cards. Krithos ended up. Oh, that's a spoiler. That's all right. Well, there's real cards later on as well who are the villain, and then there's an artifact and things like that. So I started there, and then I just sort of what was interesting about that storytelling was I had control about the options, but I didn't really have a lot of control about what happened because people were voting on it. So it was really interesting because there were definitely times where I was like, it's a lot easier if they pick this one, and then they would pick something else. I'm like, oh god. But that made it really cool. So I could plan a little bit ahead. Like I knew who the main villain was, and I knew where they need to get to eventually. And I had like things along the way I wanted them to do, hopefully. But because it was so unpredictable, it was actually really fun to write it, because I was watching the votes just like other people, because I'm like, I don't know what is going to happen. Ideally, obviously, I'd rather write it all and then write it all at once and be done. But it was a really fun world to play in. And, we've talked about other products that maybe someday would be cool to do in storytelling in the Hero Realms world. So I don't know. I had a blast doing it, and like it went too long. Partially, I like to blame all of the people watching this. I'm just kidding. No, but because of that unpredictability, that was part of the thing. We didn't really know. I was like, "Come on, we got to get to the city, guys." And then people were like, "Let's rest here tonight." I'm like, "Oh gosh."
I always try to vote to make it as hard on you as possible.
I'm sure you did. But it was cool.
With like 10 accounts voting it.
That's really fun. I would love to do something like that again, or maybe do something like that in the Star Realms world. I think people would love
That'd be awesome. I'd love to do that.
And it's a way where it again sort of mirrors sort of regular physical role playing games, where if you're game mastering, often your players will throw you for a loop. You've got plans, and they mess with them. So
absolutely, it was fun. It was actually really fun because I knew what would happen sort of at the end, but yeah, there were some twists and turns, and I was like, oh no, I'll put this as an option, but no one's going to take it. And it would be like 90% of people. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, and Blake had asked about like compiling that. I think we had talked about it, so we can discuss this afterwards. But about like compiling it all into a single store.
Yeah.
$50,000 because it's very popular. Blake likes it, so
Blake likes it.
And
we should definitely do that. Absolutely.
there will be a card coming out with that half demon character as well. So a promo card, most likely we'll figure that out. But that's
Sally,
our plan.
Before we did the stream, we asked Danny and Ben to comment on things that they might want us to ask about, or general topics for discussion, and we pretty much covered most of them. But there's one here, Ben. I'm guessing this probably isn't you. What time should you go to the dentist was a suggested topic.
Do you want to answer?
Tooth hurdy. Tooth hurdy.
I
like 2:30, but it's
all the dad jokes going on.
For the West Coast. It's for the West Coast.
So Ben, how do you stay sane in the office?
We have 2 rooms.
Well, the pandemic, we weren't together in the office that much, so that was even though it was a horrible pandemic in the world, the one silver lining was I didn't have to see Danny that much, so I sort of reset.
I've been saving them up for a year.
Yeah.
So
I've actually had dentist appointments at 2:30.
That's the best.
And the person making the appointment does not think it's funny at all.
No.
But I do.
No matter how many times you say it.
Yeah.
What another question we had talked about was, what games do you play for fun in your spare time? Do you have any spare time, or are you always working on making games?
I play games all the time. I have a game night every couple of weeks usually, and then I try to play a little bit. And I play online. I started playing a lot online recently with some friends of mine. So we play a lot of stuff. My favorite game of all time is probably Battle Masters, which is an old, I think it's a 90s game. You play on a 5-foot mat that unfolds on the floor.
Wow.
And you roll it's cool. It's amazing. It's like if the kid in you is sleeping and you want to wake him or her up, get Battle Masters and play it, because it's a total blast.
Nice.
It's like with a boulder.
Yeah, it's based in the Warhammer universe technically, but it's not Warhammer at all.
It's silly.
Yeah.
And not silly like the orcs are silly. My favorite game. So
Sure.
My favorite game, I think, is Hero Quest. At least when I think about the fondest memories. Well, it was back in high school or middle school, high school. I'm old. And we played this game, Hero Quest, which is sort of this like precursor to the dungeon crawls, like Descent and like Imperial Assault, like that kind of stuff. And they recently, I think Hasbro is bringing it back. It was like they did like their own weird like internal Kickstarter thing for it like a year and a half ago. So like I backed that. So I don't know. I'll let you know in a year if it turns out that actually was my favorite game. If not, if probably Magic, probably buying $10 worth of commons and playing Magic. But those are my favorites.
That's good too.
Oh, we have a couple people that have Battle Masters, and
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, nice. All right. Well, do you have anything else for
No, thank you very
so
much, guys.
And one last question. I think everyone wants to know, what's your Twitch channel for the Ben and Danny comedy show?
Yeah, we're still producing that one. That one, we're gonna put water in the box for that one.
Water in the box.
That
could be Caribbean
that's our
too.
name, yeah.
All right. So thank you guys.
Thank you,
We'll
Ben.
see
Thank you, Danny.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.